In this week's episode of Tokyo Ghoul, the notorious Jason is being tracked down by the CCG, and Kaneki learns that not all ghouls are demented and evil. In fact, some of them are cute, adorable little girls. That is until you walk into a room and see them eating human body parts. Damn, this series takes some dark turns. That's some Hannibal Lecter shit going on there. All joking aside, this was a pretty good episode of Tokyo Ghoul. It wasn't like a big action fest or anything, but it had a lot of atmosphere, and we got to learn a little bit more about the ghouls and how they're able to live in human society. We also get to learn that some of them aren't exactly all that adept at hunting humans, and don't even want to go through the process, and that's where this whole weird little coffee shop comes into place. This is actually where Kaneki's going to be working now, and he also gets to learn how to finally start to eat real food, which I thought there'd be a bigger trick to this. Apparently, it's just not chewing, just eat like a damn duck. We also get to learn that Kaneki is also going to get a mask, and if you guys have seen any of the trailers for the show, or seen the intro for the show, you know eventually that Kaneki's going to get this real metal-ass, disgusting, scary-looking mask. And in this week's episode, we get to learn how he's going to get that. Now, all these ghouls apparently have their own special masks that they can wear at night. This way, nobody can recognize them if they're trying to blend in with normal society. And they actually go to this one mask shop, which is run by this one creepy ghoul by the name of Uta, and he asks Kaneki a lot of very personal questions, but that's so that he can make him the absolute perfect mask for himself. And I was really sort of hoping that they would reveal it in this week's episode, but not quite yet. The mask is not done. We gotta let the master go to work. My favorite thing about this week's episode is the formal introduction of CCG, which is essentially an anti-ghoul task force made up of all of these detectives. And there's this one group of Mato and Amon, who are great characters. I love these guys. They kind of remind me of Mulder and Scully, and I would love to see an entire spin-off series just about these guys going on paranormal adventures. And all they do throughout the entire episode is interrogate ghouls because they're trying to find Jason. Because in the first episode, Jason actually left behind these pair of clamps, and they're trying to figure out what they do and what they're for, because apparently they're not normal clamps. So they're literally going around, going through these back alleyways and beating the crap out of ghouls with their massive steel briefcases and leaving Samsonite scars all over their foreheads. And it is freaking awesome. And I imagine maybe they have some other special abilities they haven't gotten into quite yet. This is all tied into another story at the beginning of the episode where there's this family and a doctor who were attacked by Jason at the beginning of the episode. He just busts right into the door and he demands that the doctor make him a brand new weapon or whatever the hell that thing was. This family of ghouls which was attacked by Jason aren't exactly all that powerful either, and they have to go to that coffee shop in order to get actual food. And what's really great here is there's this one scene where Kaneki and this other ghoul by the name of Yomo actually have to go grocery shopping. And they actually go to this one cliffside where apparently a lot of people are always committing suicide. And Kaneki falls over the cliff, but thankfully his weird tentacle abilities save him right before he hits the bottom. And there's a dead body down there. And this is actually what they do. They collect these suicidal dead bodies, and I guess this way they don't have to live with the guilt of actually killing people, but it's still really disturbing, especially because towards the end of the episode, Kaneki actually walks in on that little girl by the name of Hinami, and she's eating something on the plate. It's completely censored, but they didn't like cut away from it. They didn't put a black filter over it. You could just tell there was something nasty on that plate. But what I loved most about it is she wasn't like shocked or anything. Kaneki just runs out of the room and she just casually like uses her napkin to wipe the blood off of her face. Clearly she was really getting into that shit, but whatever. It actually ends with a really nice scene where Kaneki walks in with a cup of coffee to sort of like apologize to her, and he notices that she's reading a book that he really likes, and this allows them to bond and everything's all happy and blah 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 blah. That is until this one blue-haired asshole just walks in at the end of the episode. Clearly he is ominous and a new character, and I don't really know what to take from him, and that's the end of this week's episode. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Tokyo Ghoul? I liked it. It wasn't a perfect episode, and it wasn't a big action fest, but it's still really early on in the series, and we need to learn about certain aspects of the world. I do like the fact that they're building up the first villain of the series, which is known as Jason. I'm a huge Friday the 13th fan, so I'm totally all about this. I can't wait to see what the deal with his clamps are, like why those are such an important weapon, because I don't know if that's related to the weird thing that he summoned in the first episode, which literally looked like a giant, like, spiked cross type weapon, but whatever, that's beside the point. Other things that made this episode good, of course, is the atmosphere, and that coupled with the animation and the artwork just made everything work really well. The scene where Kaneki walked in on the little girl eating the human body parts and stuff was really, really freaky, and yet she managed to be calm about the entire situation, and it just shows that there's a lot of ghouls in the world who are really just accustomed to doing this now, and they're not freaked out about it at all. And Kaneki's got a lot to learn if he's going to live within this world. But the other thing that's important about this episode is he's also trying to learn to live in the actual human world as well. There's a scene where he's learning to eat again, and it's all about just, you know, swallowing food in a certain way. This way he can still hang out with his good friend Hide and everything. Toka is also starting to warm up to Kaneki a little bit. This is something that was expected. I'm not sure how their dynamic is going to grow as the series goes on, if it's going to be more of just like a brother-sister thing, or if it's actually going to blossom into some sort of romance type thing, because they love doing that type of thing in these series. But otherwise, other things I loved, I already mentioned, I love the CCG guys. Motto's design is hilarious, and I get a huge X-Files vibe from these guys, and I would love to see a spin-off from them. I just think they're really interesting, and I'd like to see how their story is going to, like, interact when they run into, like, Kaneki for the first time, because it's clearly going to happen. They're building that situation up. That's the reason why Kaneki actually has to get a mask, because if they run into these guys who are in the CCG, they'll recognize them if they're just on the streets. So if they're wearing these masks, everything's going to be cool. So this also just shows that a lot of other people are probably going to have their own, like, masks and designs as well. And this is probably why this one Jason guy actually wears his hockey mask. But I'm really interested to see if Toka's going to have, like, her own mask, if she's going to do something cool and all that jazz. But otherwise, this was a great episode that had a lot of great animation, artwork, the color scheme was great, the atmosphere was amazing, the music was awesome, the voice acting was good, there was a ton of creepy moments. I really liked this episode, even though there wasn't any action. We need to remind ourselves, guys, that action does not make a great episode, but sometimes atmosphere, storytelling, and character development can be just as good, and that's what I saw in this week's episode. So I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I'm still really excited for the rest of Tokyo Ghoul, and I'm really enjoying this right now, and I cannot wait to see more from the badass Jason. Thank you guys for watching my review today. Before you go, please give this video a thumbs up and hit that like button. It really helps us out a lot. And subscribe to the channel if you have not already. And if you guys watched this week's episode of Tokyo Ghoul, I would love to hear your thoughts about it, and you can tell me with your comments below. You can also check us out on Facebook and on Twitter. I'll put some links for those in the description box below. So guys, that concludes my review today. Super Kami Guru 9000. Peace out, dudes.